what I love about Farscape is that we don't take the science too seriously, in a sense that some genre of science fiction does, which I still really enjoy. But Farscape is much more of a wonderful, fantastical story in space. It's much more of a romp. It's much more of an adventure rather than a philosophical discourse on how science is going to influence society in the future or possibly in other planets in the universe. It's really not that type of show. It's about running around with guns, sexy chicks, weird-looking aliens, really mad storylines, and people just having a really good time. That's what I love about Farscape. You've got the choice of watching some drama, or you've got 45 minutes of just rollicking, fantastic fun, breakneck speed, and that's what I think people have really hooked into with Farscape. My favourite episode from season 1 is DNA Mad Scientist, and the reason that DNA Mad Scientist is my favourite episode from season 1 is I felt that it was the first episode that reflected our vision for the show. Because we'd said from the outset, we don't want this to be happy families in space. We want this to be a fun fantasy romp about characters thrust together who did not choose to be together, and they don't like each other. They don't like each other. They want to get home. They want to get their kingdom back. He wants to get his son. She wants to go back to being a peacekeeper, and they will practically do anything to get that. And the fact that they chop off Pilot's arm demonstrates the lengths to which they're going to go to get what they want. For me personally, in season 2, I enjoyed the body-changing episode, which is called Out of Their Minds. It was such a wonderful change for us. We've been doing the season then for the show for nearly 2 years, or 1.5 years, and we started to find our rhythm, and it was great to have a chance to move into different characters and work out how they move and these type of things. So that was really enjoyable, and we all worked in pairs. So for example, Gigi and I had to be each other's characters. So Gigi and I would work with each other with video cameras and work on the walks and the things and the voice. And actually, no, he would rather say this. The interesting thing about Scratch and Sniff is that we shot it as a linear storyline. Go down to a planet, girls get kidnapped, boys come down, rescue them from the drug barons, bring them back to Moya. We cut it together, and when the director's cut was delivered, or when a cut was delivered, it was decided that they didn't like it. Tony Tillis, the director, said, I have an idea of how we can make this work. He took scenes from Act 3, put them in 1, put them in 4, 2, chucked them in 4, this, that, absolutely chopped and changed the structure. If you could believe how much that is all topsy-turvy from how we shot it. It's absolutely incredible the way that they thread that together. Then they went back in B Unit and added a couple of scenes with Crichton talking to Pilot and invented the premise of it being Crichton recounting a made-up story, or his version of what happened down at the planet as to why him and Dargo and everything's a mess on Moya. So it actually wasn't conceived like that initially and wasn't shot like that, but it's a great example of people not giving up, wanting to create a great episode, and I think they took a lot of risks in recutting it and restructuring it like that, and I think it really paid off. It's one of my favourite episodes from season 3. It's because it does what Farscape does best. It's adventurous, and it's silly in a good way, and it's outrageous and sexy, and great fight scenes, and and you can see the beach.
Isn't that the pile of drain we saw outside the window? Yeah.
Season 3 has been a fantastic season for Dargo in negotiating and fleshing out the pain of those 2 great losses that happened at the end of season 2. So you have the breakup of the relationship with Chiana, and you also have the disintegration of the relationship with his son. The fact that it's my son sleeping with my girlfriend is never a really good thing. So, I mean, I think if I start to contemplate the immensity of that, then I've got 4 seasons worth of grief to get through. But exploring that through this season and finding his place within the relationships of the ship once those things are broken down has been something really, really interesting to find, and we're softening the edges of Dargo all the time as we go through, and you really do get a great sense through watching the 3 seasons that he really has changed as a character. You cannot see many traits that you saw at the start of season 1 remaining in season 3 in terms of his growth as a person, if you like, as a character. So that's been really interesting bringing through. I really appreciate the challenge that the writers and the producers have given me in that sense. Many shows would carry the main arc or the main super objective of the character right through the whole series, you know. When am I going to find my son? But I think that we found that the value and the exploration that we needed for that pursuit had been played out. And I'm glad that they took the risk or the challenge or accepted the fact or realized the fact that we could move beyond that and find new things for this character to discover. And now there's a whole lot of questions opened up in season 3 as to what this ship that Dargo finds is and why it only responds to his voice and why it's in Luxon. And so I'm sure that in the future is going to reveal many hidden secrets. When the writing department came to me and said, you know, we're actually in Ep 2 of season 3, you know, Dargo's going to discover this ship, and eventually throughout season 3 you're going to discover that he's got a special relationship with this ship. I was like, oh, right, it was very cool. You know, oh, yeah, cool, okay, right. And I get home, it's like, on the phone, I got my own spaceship. I got my own spaceship. You know, normally we're in the spaceship with everyone else, and he's going to spend on that. I got my own spaceship, right? It only listens to me. I'm the only one that can drive it. It's got a big off gun on top of it. I'm just going to drive around in my own spaceship. So that was absolutely, can't swear on DVDs, can you? I just ruined that whole grab. But no, I was very excited to get my own spaceship. I could sit in there and play games and talk to myself and hang fluffy dice up the top, whacking some tunes, maybe write some poetry. It's my space. Because the voice was last minute, we ended up with just the first decision for the first couple of eps. So we really only ended up with this type of Dargo voice all the time, speaking like this was that, no matter what. But then over time, we've got this sort of much more color and depth, and he flows much more gently. You still can go to this type of place, but when he's speaking with his friends, you find this type of tone in his voice, and that's enabled me to discover many more subtleties in the character and things like that. So that's been interesting. Well, I haven't done it for a couple of months, and my voice is a bit tired, so it's probably a bit crap. But that's a general idea of how I speak. It's right on the throat and quite down, and slight American accent, and overemphasizing one word in each sentence, just that tiny little bit.
Identify yourself.
The voice is what me and my friends used to muck around doing movie trailers. You know, it's here. Jim Henson presents Claudia Black, Ben Browder, and Anthony Simcoe in Farscape. That's the Dargo voice. The Dargo voice is every stoned person across the planet pretending to be a movie trailer. I think I've gone through 3 or 4 different types of costumes now. Started off with a little pantsuit, knickerbockery type deal, which was great, but that was just such a pain to be laced up in between takes all the time. So I really wanted right from the start to have a big sort of samurai type skirt, because it's fantastic during fight scenes and twirls and whatever. And originally, when Dargo was first conceived, he was based on a pirate, on a Scottish type pirate. And I had kilts, so like a really Scottish type costume, with I don't know what you call it, like, you know, going over the chest here, down to a kilt, a type of Scottish type material, and it just didn't work. And that's when we went for the third thing. But we always wanted to come back to some type of a skirt, some type of samurai skirt. So I'm glad that we ended up getting there. And as each costume has come on, they've got a little bit more braver with that. So now the skirt is much fuller, and I really enjoy working in my costume. I've got much bigger shoulder pads now too, so I can bounce my tentacles off it when I'm speaking.
It's
Well, we're now talking about the makeup and how the makeup's changed over 3 seasons, and it might be interesting for you to see the maquette. This was the maquette of the original concept for Dargo. He actually looked very different in some drawing designs, but when they decided on the final look, this is how they envisaged Dargo looking before they brought me in and did my live cast. And this was how I looked when I had my very first makeup test. It's surprising, actually, even with all this makeup, how much a different face shapes this type of makeup. So I can even notice now that my face would never make this makeup look like this. But as soon as we put it on, the powers that be, one of the very first decisions that was made is that it was way too much flesh. And this is right at the last hour. This is at a camera test, I think 2 days before we were starting to shoot. So Nigel Booth, who created this maquette and also designed my makeup first up, decided that perhaps we needed some tattoos, because even at the back there was no tattoos. So then originally they added the tattoos that now exist along there, and then they decided there's still too much flesh, and then at the last hour we added the tattoos that now exist along there. And in season 1, I've got a slightly different nose plate to this. And then in season 2, that was one of the things that we really didn't like. So you'll notice that my nose plate is very, very different in season 2. The slash across here has gotten less and less as time goes on, and has become much, much darker, because we felt that season 1 it read a little bit too much like foam, and now that it's darker, it reads much more as a skin-like texture, and they can get more layers into it. But that's the original Dargo. Sexy.
But I've always thought that the cut of that green shirt doesn't suit the shape of your body.
You know, it's got to be them. We are near the rendezvous.
The real logic was that we just didn't like the foam look of it, and the darker look was to add more textures to the makeup. But it sort of fitted in with the storyline, because at the end of season 1 we blew up a Gamak base and there's a great big fantastic CGI shot of this planet going to flame. So you could logically say that some sort of sun tanning event happened with the destruction of the Gamak base. And that suntan just seemed to stay, stay and stay and stay. Do you think maybe, I mean, if you think about it, Dargo, have you ever contemplated the fact that Dargo every morning plaits this? Have you ever thought about the psychology that goes into a character doing this every morning? I'm willing to bet that maybe he's got a bit of self-tanning lotion going on at the same time. So he gets up in the morning, he has a shower, chills out, maybe plays a bit of Shulkin, gets on the phone, sees whether he can contact anyone, can't, so he chills out in his room, plays dice, mucks around, then thinks, might as well put on some self-tanning lotion. Rubs the lotion all over himself, plaits his beard, whacks his skirt on, and goes out and has an adventure. That's your average Dargo day.